every time I log into X or Twitter, if you still call it that, I stay seeing Panthers fans throwing dirt on Michael Penix when Bryce Young would never be anywhere as good as Michael Penix if both of these two quarterbacks reach their full potential. There are just certain throws that Michael Penix can make that Bryce Young will never be able to make due to the physical limitations that Bryce Young has. He doesn't have a strong arm. Michael Penix, on the other hand, has one of the strongest arms in the NFL. And the small sample size that we got out of Michael Penix, he showed the ability to thread the needle into tight windows. Bryce Young can't do that. Bryce Young has a smaller margin for error in comparison to Michael Penix due to him not having that strong of an arm. That's why Bryce Young has to get the ball out quick. That's why he has to play within a certain confine of an offense that is built around overcoming his limitations. He's the smallest quarterback in the NFL. He's not really that athletic as what you thought he would have been coming out of Alabama. And just with the arm strength being slightly above average at best, he just can't make those tight window throws, especially downfield, like Michael Penix can. Michael Penix is also a way better deep ball thrower than what Bryce Young is. That's one of the biggest flaws that Bryce Young has. Even after he got benched, you didn't see the consistency with the deep ball accuracy out of Bryce. Michael Penix, a lot gets made out of his inaccuracies from last year, but you have to take into account that he was thrown into a situation that he was never expected to be in. Kirk Cousins was supposed to be the Falcons starting quarterback for the entirety of last year, but with how bad he played, the Falcons had no choice but to pivot and to throw Michael Penix into the fire despite him not having a lot of first team reps with the offense during training camp and during the season. So you got a guy that was going out there pretty much learning on the fly, going with the motions, and he was still playing some really good football. You look at Bryce, though, even with how well he looked at times after getting benched, he still is far from a finished product. And there's a reason why the Atlanta Falcons have 5 primetime games and why the Panthers only have 1. That's because the Falcons have Michael Penix playing quarterback, and the Carolina Panthers have Bryce Young at QB this year. And I love Bryce Young. I was a huge believer of his when he came out of Alabama and the Panthers took him first overall. And I still do believe that Bryce Young can become a solid quarterback in this league. But it's pretty clear to see that he never is going to be as good as what you expect from a guy that you take that high in the draft. It goes back to the whole Bryce Young versus C.J. Stroud debate. From a physical tool standpoint, C.J. Stroud just has so much up on Bryce Young that even with Bryce Young reaching his ceiling, he won't be better than C.J. Stroud. You can still win with Bryce Young, but you aren't going to get the high-level quarterback play out of Bryce Young compared to what you're going to see out of Michael Penix over these next couple of years. Michael Penix is a really special quarterback. He's left-handed, which makes it harder for defenses to defend against him due to the rotation that the ball comes out with and also the velocity that he throws the football with. Michael Penix can afford to throw an out route late because he has enough zip on the football to get it to where it needs to go a lot faster. Bryce Young can't afford to throw an out route late because 9 times out of 10 is going to get intercepted due to the lack of arm strength he has. When you watch Michael Penix and Bryce Young play, it's clearly obvious who is the more superior and more talented quarterback when you watch both of these two guys. Yeah, Bryce Young got the leg up when they went head-to-head at the end of last season, but that was only Michael Penix's 3rd NFL start. Bryce Young has played, 15, 16 games at this point? You know, with Michael Penix, the potential, the ceiling is a lot higher than what you get compared to Bryce Young. If the Carolina Panthers right now had the ability to pick between either Bryce Young or Michael Penix, We all know who they're going with. They are going with Michael Penix. In the NFL, the quarterbacks that are considered to be elite are the aliens, the guys that have the big arms and are great athletes. Your Lamars, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes. Michael Penix has the physical tools and the traits to be up there in those conversations with those quarterbacks. Meanwhile, we look at Bryce Young as being the equivalent to a Brock Purdy or a Tua. And anytime you bring up Michael Penix to Atlanta Falcons fans, their eyes light up. Because they know that they actually have a long-term answer at quarterback. But when you bring up Bryce Young to Carolina Panthers fans, you cause a civil war among the fan base. You either are on one side believing that Bryce Young is the long-term solution to the Panthers quarterback problems that they had post-Cam Newton, or you're on the other side. You don't think that Bryce Young has what it takes. You don't think that he's going to be that good this year, and the Panthers are eventually going to draft his replacement in 2026. There's not a huge gap between how Panthers fans feel about Bryce Young in terms of their belief that he'll be good and the belief that he'll end up not working out. And that tells you everything you need to know about these two quarterbacks. In only 3 games, the Falcons already know that Michael Penix is their guy. But when you look at Bryce Young, though, the jury is still out. And you may feel like I'm being unfair. Yeah, Bryce Young looked so improved after he got the starting job from Andy Dalton. But it's just pretty obvious that with the physical traits that Michael Penix has, the fact that he's better throwing the football downfield, he's a better athlete, I'm shocked that Bryce Young runs 4.5. Because he doesn't look like he runs 4.5 when you watch the games. He constantly gets ran down by defensive linemen. Yeah, he's pretty wiggly. He can break out of sacks. He can kind of make a few guys miss every once in a while. But with Michael Penix, though, you have a really underrated athlete. This was somebody that ran 4.5, and you can actually see it on film. You can run design quarterback runs with Michael Penix. You can run zone reads with Michael Penix. You can't do the same things that you can do with Michael Penix if you have Bryce Young in his situation. Your offense is limited because you have to scheme around his limitations. At his best, Bryce Young is a great value brand version of Drew Brees, but a lot smaller. Michael Penix, at his best, you have one of the best and most gifted quarterbacks in the NFL. A lot of the accuracy issues that Michael Penix had was due to him not having a lot of timing and chemistry with the receivers that he was throwing the ball to, because he was thrown into the starting role so late in the season where he didn't really have a lot of reps. And a lot of those inaccurate passes that Michael Penix threw was more so him trying to anticipate when guys were going to make their breaks, trying to throw the football before they got open so he can put it right in the breadbasket for him. But when you don't have a lot of reps in practice, you get a lot of timing issues. A lot of those inaccurate throws that Penix had were timing issues. We still don't know how accurate Bryce Young is throwing the football. You can't say that Bryce Young does anything better than Michael Penix when we've only seen such a small sample size out of Bryce of him looking like a somewhat functional quarterback.